Hello, my name is Irene Köppe. I'm a PhD student at the University of Potsdam. I wrote a paper on German hospitals in the Covid-19 crisis and asked whether there was a return to state control and regulation. I will start with a tiny introduction on what happened during the pandemic in German health policy. I look at two methods to analyze the change in policies: hospital financing and orders of change, hospital finance and processes of change, and I ask whether there are any signs for permanent and decisive changes in German health policy. Well, there was a wave as everywhere else, and politics rushed into action because they anticipated overstress in the health system. They wondered whether there would be too many inpatients, too few experts, especially nurses and doctors, too few materials, protective equipment and ventilators, and of course financial distress and the danger of insolvencies and then closures of hospitals. And I ask whether these measures are temporary or permanent, and the measures that were called for in the first stage were the abolition of lump sum financing per treatment. Instead, they asked for introduction of flat rate financing of hospitals based on recent budgets. This question came from insurance companies as well as from hospitals. But politics only realized a temporary flat rate financing of empty beds and nursing costs, the postponing of elective treatments, reduction of grace periods to hinder liquidity problems, the suspension of documentary obligations and some quality exams, sometimes tiny transitory adjustments and bonuses for nurses. One way to analyze changes in policies is using the orders of change according to Robert Hall from 1993. He looked at three variables: overreaching objectives, instruments, and policy techniques, which were either altered or remain constant according to different kinds of orders of change. Now, in German health policy during the pandemic, the overreaching objectives remained constant. Instruments were altered, but only temporarily. Policy techniques were slightly and temporarily altered, so a first order might be seen, but no permanent change envisaged. But also, new government since autumn 2018, and that claimed to invoke some more changes. These measures could possibly prove to implement major changes in healthcare financings and paradigms in hospitals. Also, the actors of the hospital sector have also opened more debates of the further future of the hospital financing system. A second way to analyze change in policies is looking at the processes of change according to Streeck and Tillen from 2005. This is a more path-dependent look at processes. They looked at processes of displacement, layering, drift, conversion, and exhaustion, and I ask which process can be seen. You can see the kind of processes depicted in pictures here. And in hospital finances, no replacement, no conversion can be seen because core measures and new regulations were temporary, and the old policy is at least envisaged to return as soon as the pandemic is over. Minor changes could signify a drift that is lying ahead. And when you include the changes made before 2020, you might be looking at layering or exhaustion. A deeper look at these years might be necessary in a few years, analyzing in retrospect. So, are there any signs for permanent or decisive changes in German health policy? No, but this is only a preliminary look. Many hospital financing is looked at, and it's limited to two theories of change. Why aren't there any changes? Because the German health policy is a multi-layered system of decision-making, and generally it's a very robust system in contrast to other countries. And of course, the pandemic and prospective changes might not be over yet. So thank you for listening and reading the papers. If you have any questions or comments, just write me an email to köppe@uni-potsdam.de.